Good morning. Well, good morning, everyone. We're really happy that you're here. Many of you arrived last night. Some of you are just getting here. So we're off to a great start with the program. A lot of energy. I see a lot of people networking and sharing ideas. So what we want to do is really get you inspired this morning. We have some wonderful speakers lined up, and the license that we gave to them is be creative, have fun, be inspiring, and share your story. So I'm just so excited to begin this morning with our first speaker. So I'm going to invite Linda Losey to the stage. She has a wonderful story to share with you, and I'm not going to steal your thunder. So here you go. Let's give her a wonderful round of applause.
Hi, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for having me. Imagine creating joy and jobs for your community while boosting rural economies. I'm going to share with you a case study, actually my story, of how we got into what we do, who we are, and how you can take that back home to your students and perhaps share it with them. When they say they can't, they can. All they need is a little vision. So I'm Linda Losey, and the one on the left is Tom Kiefer. The other one is Rob Losey, and he's my ex-husband. So there I have my husband and my ex-husband in business with me. It is pretty awesome. It takes a while for people to digest that. So we are Bloomery Sweet Shine. We are from West Virginia, in Charlestown, West Virginia. Woo, it's right. Charlestown, West Virginia. And West Virginia is a pretty large state. Not about 7 hours, but not as large as Texas, but it's still pretty vast. And we're in the upper eastern panhandle, which is about an hour and a half outside of Washington, D.C., and an hour and a half outside of Baltimore, Maryland. It is a small community, a rural community, but it's largely based on tourism. So we have a lot of hotels, restaurants, a casino, a racetrack, and then us. And so we bring a lot of people in on the agritourism side of it. And we're where the Blue Ridge Mountains meet the Shenandoah River, so it's just beautiful scenery. It's near Harper's Ferry. We have a lot of tourists there, and then they also come to see our farm, where we grow lemons and raspberries and black walnuts and pumpkins and ginger. And we are the most awarded farm distillery in America. I'm so pleased to be able to say that now. We have over 36 plus awards and medals to our name. We've been in business for 7 years now. And what I'm going to share with you is sort of the steps and what we took in order to bring this to life. So we're going to talk about value-added products, creative branding, and experiential marketing, because without those three things, we could not survive as a farm distillery. Imagine waking up one morning and seeing your business touted all across every small little newspaper headline in America. And that's what I woke up to one day, 3 years after we started the business. And it was thrilling. It was our 15 minutes of fame. It went from West Virginia all the way to Hawaii and even into Iceland. And I was getting calls all over because this model was sort of new at the time, and people wanted to know what we were doing as a farm and how we sort of excelled in this field of being a farm distillery. I'm going to share with you a short video that will give you the essence of what we do. Imagine being connected to the world through one tiny bottle. A bottle so full of spirit, grounded to the earth. This place has such a rich history. It goes down deep into its roots, and it's got bootlegging and moonshining, and we had no idea of this rich history when we bought this place on Craigslist. And it's now just part of it, and we've become a part of this land and a part of the legacy that's being left here with this rich history. What's in the bottle is the spirit of this company, but that's not at all what it's about. It's about community, it's about our fans, it's about our team, it's about coming together around something so unique, something so full of life and so energized and passion. And that's what the spirit of this is. We are one pure American spirit in every sense of the word.
You want to know the people behind the brand. You want to support something that you know. And we grow what we put into the bottles or source from other small American farms. 4 ingredients: 190 proof corn liquor, pure cane sugar, water, and then that fruit, root, or nut that we grow or source. And that's it.
So when we first came here to see this log cabin in the woods, this is the condition it was in 2010. It had never been lived in. It was abandoned. As you can see, it was totally deserted, falling down and run down.
And look how far we've come.
What would it be like to connect your spirit to the world, hand to hand, and farm to bottle? A bottle bursting with anticipation for the future.
But we want to take it beyond that. We see this vision and we want to get connected to the rest of America.
What if we could connect the world, one tiny bottle at a time? Connect your spirit to ours. Together, we can. So what it takes is vision. And how do you get that vision? Well, I can tell you my journey started a few years prior to that. My eldest son, Eric, my rock, the center of my universe, my Marine, ended up committing suicide. And how do you pick up the pieces after that? He committed suicide because a few years prior, his younger brother, Sam, was killed beneath the wheels of a trailer hauling a John Deere tractor while the two of them were taking a garbage can up to the house. And unbeknownst to them, there was a trailer going through the field with a truck, and as they turned, it crushed Sammy, 6 tons on his 60-pound body. He was 10 years old at the time. And Eric, as I said, like a Marine, my strong, centered one, couldn't save him. Nobody could. So how do you do that? How do you pick up the pieces from your shattered heart? I have 4 children, 2 deceased, 2 surviving, and it wrecked our world, absolutely devastated us. Prior to Sammy's death, 3 months prior to his death, he said, "Mom, I want to ride my horse across America." And I said, "Honey, someday we will, but right now we can't. You're in school, you're all in school." And he was just like, "But Mom, I have to do this. I have to ride my horse across America with you." I said, "Honey, someday we will, I promise you that." So prior to his dying, he had plotted on a map our route from Maryland, West Virginia to Ohio, and then he died. Shortly thereafter, about 8 months later, I received a phone call. "Hello, is Sam there?" I said, no, I'm sorry, he's not. And I'm thinking, please don't ask me when he's coming home. Please don't ask me when he's coming home. When is he coming home? I said, he's never coming home. And there was a dead silence. And this man regained his composure, and he said, "Listen," he said, "I'm from the McCauley Feed Company in Kentucky." He said, "And I received a letter from Sam, and he wanted us to sponsor his journey across America." And I said, "Oh my gosh." And there was another dead silence. I said, "I don't know what to say." And he said, "Well, would you consider riding across America on a horse?" by yourself in Sam's honor. I was like, no. Well, yes, I will. So I shipped my 2 horses out to California, to San Diego. I was an East Coast girl, had never seen the desert. I was with my 2 horses, Rocky and Val, and as you see, this is what I saw. We were self-sufficient. I had a tent with me. I had my horses, and I had feed being dropped every 5 days where I could fill them up. And I had trail mix. I had trail mix that sustained me all the way across America. And according to my horse, Rocky, it takes 1,783 steps to go a mile. That meant we did 4,032 miles, which is 7,189,000 steps, or 7,189,056 steps, according to Rocky, to get across America in 6 months, 26 days, 1 hour, and 4 minutes. And I did it to honor, thank you. I did it to honor my son, Sam, and to heal my broken heart. And thank goodness for his vision, because by the time I got all the way across America, I knew that I had found joy and laughter and love again in my heart. Now, what was I going to do with that? My husband, Tom Kiefer, whichever one he was on that screen, because I don't remember now, he has U.S. and Australian citizenship. And his great-great-aunt, Mary MacKillop, was being canonized as Australia's first saint. So we got the invitation to go to Italy to see his great-great-aunt be canonized. And while we were there, we fell in love with limoncello. So we brought 2 bottles home with us, and that was the golden chalice. We were drinking it. We realized that this is it. So I started buying bottles of limoncello off the shelves of America and realized that I couldn't find that same flavor profile, so I started making it. So how do I go from making it to buying a rundown, dilapidated log cabin in the woods in West Virginia, growing lemons, and becoming the most awarded farm distillery in America? We bought this place on Craigslist. In less than a year, while working full-time, Tom and I decided that we would have this distillery, and we opened for business on September 17th of 2011. And you can't be sad around a lemon. It's a happy, happy fruit. And so we decided that we would make limoncello. We had that same flavor profile, and then we added the cranberries and the raspberries and the ginger and just started making all of these sweet shines, these pure cane sugar, water, 190 proof shine, and then the fruit root or nut that we grow or source. So this is where the value added part of it comes in. We took a $2 lemon that we grow, and we began bottling it by adding all of those ingredients and selling it then for $24 to the local stores. So that's the value added component of it. So how do you add value to it and not get $2, but how do you get $24? And that's what a value added component or product is. But Mother Nature is not kind. Some of our lemon trees froze in West Virginia, imagine that. And this is one such tree that broke my heart, but they're mothers, they give birth. And this was her last lemon that she gave me, and I honored that. And we made, sort of this commemorative bottle of limoncello from her bounty. And I was very grateful for that. How do you get people to notice you? That's where the creative branding comes in. And you have to have creative branding in order to get noticed on off the shelves and for people to pick you up. I'm a graphic design artist by pretty much experience. That's what I've done for all my life. And this is a coast card where on one side you have this wonderful postcard. On the other side is like greetings from West Virginia, wish you were here, sorry you're not, because we have better friends here. So we do all kinds of fun, sassy things, but we also tout the all-natural and farm-fresh aspect of it. Here you see that they're hand-zesting the lemons. We hand-zest every lemon that comes through. And then we are truly handcrafted. Here is my team, who's awesome. We would not be where we are today without them. And they're cutting the pumpkins that we grow or source from other small American farms, and that's what we support. And we are outstanding at the one thing that we do. We make outstanding cocktail liqueurs. We now have 12 SKUs. We're in Whole Foods And we've taken their Good Food Awards, which is one of the highest awards you can take. So we wouldn't be anywhere without our fans. How do you embrace them? How do you draw them in? How do you get them to embrace you? We actually go on the road with our show. This is our team, a neighbor, brother-in-law, dressing up as the characters on our creative bottles. And we go out, and how do we serve them at these events? And we're very authentic, refreshing, and memorable that way. And we're authentic and refreshing and memorable in the distillery as well. We have live music. We also have art shows, art and craft shows, and then we also bring in the musicians, the artists, and then somebody who does beekeeping, pizza, pepperoni rolls from the local bakery. So we try to support the community as well. And we have become sort of this little gem in West Virginia, and we are certainly the #1 tourist destination inside of the Eastern Panhandle, and we beat out the casino now, so that's awesome for us. And where would we be without social media? So we have I had a 21-year-old girl who was in the cavalry with me. That's in the Maryland Defense Force. We were the parade side of that, where we would ride our horses, and I met her there. She was a private, and I was a sergeant, and she was just really very good. She is now our anti-social social media director because she doesn't like people, but she's super, and she's our voice for the company on social media, and she has gotten 12,000 plus fans on Facebook, 25,000 Twitter fans. She's really, really good, and she's built this resume with us, and she's been touted as one of the best in the craft distilling industries. All that from riding a horse with me. And so the other thing that we have to realize is that we also partner with the restaurants. And the restaurants, we have to show them how to make product with our sweet shine. And we have tent cards. They'll come up with some recipes for the cocktail recipes. And we have tent cards where people see our branding and they know who we are and what we do as well. The next thing that we started just a couple of months ago is canned cocktails. So the canned cocktail movement with the millennials is huge, so we're taking advantage of that, and we use our sweet shines. So our lemons and our sweet shines go into the canned cocktails, and those are exploding. Not literally, but they are exploding. So here you see, you take that $1-2 lemon and you put it into a bottle of limoncello. That limoncello now goes into a canned cocktail for Tuscan lemonade, and that's that value-added component of what we do. And we are truly, truly, really awesome at making amazing cocktails. And we've been blessed on this journey. And I've taken you through my journey, where, how do you pick up the pieces of a mother whose heart is broken? And, emerge sort of hopefully with some grace, compassion, and wisdom in what we do in creating this company. We now have my American dream, where I'm in business with my ex-husband, and, well, some people's American dream, and and my husband, and we have 12 employees, and we're looking to really expand through this whole canned cocktail movement as well. We now own our distillery and a production building. We're looking to expand that. So, and we've been written up in all kinds of articles and, like I said, awards. So when you're talking to your students, please share with them my story. And when they tell you that they can't, they can. All they need is a little vision. Thank you.
Okay, so now you can understand why I couldn't really introduce her. It's a wonderful story. I had an opportunity to meet Linda and hear just a snippet of this story at a conference last year that was organized by Tom Downs, a good friend of ours. And it just inspired me so much, and I just thank her. And one of the things I think for all of us in the room when we're thinking about entrepreneurship, we tell people a lot, it doesn't just reside in the business school. It's everywhere. It can be in ag technology, it can be in English, it can be in math. And I think the way that we connect, you'll remember we started the kickoff, for those of you who were here last night, how might we? And I think what Linda's story does is it's how might she heal a broken heart, and what did she do but create this amazing business. And so I think it's got a lot of, I just think it's got a lot of wonderful stories. We did buy some moonshine as a gift for a number of our, of our speakers and so forth. So some of you will have a chance to sample it, but she is looking to expand in this area, so I just encourage you to learn more. So I'm going to transition to our next speaker, and I'm not going to read you her bio. She's got quite an impressive bio and an equally impressive story, but I just want to begin by telling you where I met Dr. Young, and she might not even remember this, but a couple of years ago, we were at a conference that was sponsored by the Appalachian Regional Commission, and I know David Hughes is here, so I deeply appreciate the support that they've given us. And I was at a conference, and they said, well, why don't you do this dine around dinner? And Dr. Betty Young was one of the people at my table, and I thought she was awesome because she started talking to me about all the things that she had done, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because they're quite incredible, but I remember I said to her, I said, you know, someday I really want you to join NACCE. I want you to find out about it. And I found out later that she had taken on a role of really trying to transition a college, which is what we are going to be working on later with our President's Track and the discussion. But I think it's just a wonderful transition from Linda's story to Dr. Betty Young's story. And I told her to have fun, so you are obligated to have fun with her. So let's welcome her to this stage.
I just want you to know I am not an imposter. I lived in Houston, Texas for 6 years, and this is all authentic. I also grew up on horses, and this hat is older than some of you in the room, but it is an original Ryan's from Fort Worth, Texas, so we're here having a great time. I had a chance to meet Linda. Isn't she wonderful? Let's give her another round of applause. We were at a conference, and I think maybe, I don't remember where we were. Anyway, we were at a conference, and I met Linda, and I was so impressed with her. And I said, I'm coming to visit you. And so I got in my old van, and we took off to go, and we broke down in Maryland on the way there, blew up the engine. So I never made it to Linda's, but I told her today I'm still coming. So you got put me on your calendar. Like Linda, I rode across the country on my motorcycle in 2005 because Jay Leno said some nasty things about community colleges. And I don't know about you, but anytime that happens, especially on national TV, my hair on the back of my neck goes up, and I got to take them on. And so I did. We rode cross country. We had lessons for Leno, 10 lessons. We stopped at community colleges from Ohio to California. We were with him at the show, and we gave him a piece of our mind. It was funny because about a year later, he came on the show and he said something about community college. It's not really bad. And he said, now don't write me any letters and you don't need to come see me. So I knew we had made an impact. So, you know, being an entrepreneur is a lifestyle. These songs that you heard in the video here all represent the emotions, the resilience, and the sheer determination that you need in life if you're going to be an entrepreneur. So I've kind of modified the title of my presentation this morning to be The Making of an Entrepreneurial President and an Entrepreneurial College. So you heard that theme song at the end, I Did It My Way. Well, that's certainly been true for me and for my career, and those who know me a little better would attest to that. I am my parents' only child, my father's son, working parents that also owned and ran a big farm. I was blessed because I grew up being expected to work and being allowed to create. I remember tearing up equipment on the farm and creating a downhill coaster for myself to ride on, bottle feeding the weak and the discarded lambs so that I could take them to market and make a little bit of money, and sewing my own clothes. My grandmother was a beautiful seamstress, taught me that. And so that I could make some fancy costumes when I went to baton competitions. I mean, these are the joys of growing up in an entrepreneurial family and a family that expects you to take care of yourself. We don't have that with all of our kids today, and so what we are teaching is even more important than it has ever been. For entrepreneurship is a critical part of the success of our communities. So, you heard the song I Will Survive, another one of my theme songs. So in the late 70s, I opened a women's health club. No education, no experience really in a health club. I don't know what I was thinking, but I don't know what the bank was thinking when they loaned me the money. Except I had gone to the college and I asked them, how do you do a market survey? And they gave me a book, and I went home and I did a market survey. I called about 200 people on the phone, and I'd ask them if they belonged to a health club, if there was one that existed. Enough of them said yes, and the bank bought into it, and they loaned me the money. And so what I learned from that, and money was tuition I paid for an education that I did not have, I learned about ease of entry into the marketplace. Because you see, I was the first to the market, but within 2 years, there were 3 more health clubs in town, and 2 of them were nonprofits. Trying to compete with that wasn't possible. And so that didn't work out very well. I was also at that point 28 years old. My family fell apart. I found myself to be a single mother. Big D don't mean Dallas. And I figured out I had to put a life together for my daughter and for myself. So broke as a family and broke financially, I did start to go to college at a 2-year college, and that was my saving grace. Poverty is a tremendous motivator. That particular winter was a little rough, and I worked full-time, went to school full-time, and raised my daughter, but I didn't have enough money to pay the tuition and to buy her Christmas. So there was a year of Cabbage Patch dolls. Some of you might remember them. And at the time, you had to buy like from a secondary market because they were sold out everywhere. And so people were paying a premium price. I couldn't afford the regular price, let alone the premium. I went to the local toy store and I asked him, what do they look like? He showed me a picture and I went and made them. I took it back to the store and I said, I made this. What do you think? Is it close? And he said, you should make 100 of them. You'd sell every one of them. I did. So that was my way of making life work. Now I'm going to tell you there's great charity in the world too. I went back to that toy store with my money in an envelope and my daughter's wish list. That wonderful toy guy wrapped up all the presents for me and gave me my envelope back and said, you pay your tuition. And it was a great, great moment. I give toys every year, Toys for Tots. So these are the things, these are the experiences that go into making us who we are. So I became an entrepreneur. I've been skilled very much in turnarounds and also in startups. So I started a pet store after I finished my college education because I was an accounting major and they wanted me to sit behind a desk. I've never been really good at that. And so I started this pet store and then a grooming shop because I needed to expand the revenue. It wasn't quite enough yet, and it was very successful. And so the dean from the local community college came and he said, you did finally graduate from college, didn't you? Yeah, I did. Would you come and teach entrepreneurship? Seems like you know what you're doing here. Does this sound familiar to how we go out and get adjunct faculty to anybody? And so I said, yeah, I'd try that. And he said, great, class starts on Monday. This was Thursday. I'll go out in the car and get you the book and the syllabus. So I did. I found out in that first semester that it was a lot harder than I thought it was. And also I found out that typically only about half the students finished the class. And that was true my first semester because the course was not designed very well. So I asked him if I could change it up, and he said yes, and the next semester we had almost a 90% pass rate in the class. So that's a turnaround. And then he said, well, come and teach for us full time. I did. I loved teaching. I started teaching accounting, but I didn't like accounting. So I decided that I'd start a new program in marketing and sales. I did that, startup, and it became one of the most successful programs at the college. I grew in my career as a program chair, as a department chair, and in the meantime, I bought a restaurant and a tavern. It was selling 25-cent shorty beers. That's how run down and dilapidated this tavern was. And in the next 6 years, we turned that completely around. Really from day one, we went in, put a new door on it, put some beer mugs in, started selling beer for $1.25. We became the top 5 producer for selling Budweiser and for Miller Lite, and we compete against Ohio University, and everybody knows that's a party school. So it was pretty good. I continued my education. I earned a master's, PhD, a law degree, and a postdoctorate in business law, and I continued to run a restaurant and a tavern and teach at the college and raise my daughter, and life was good. Franklin University came along and asked me if I'd come in the late 90s to start online education. I told the president there I haven't even taught an online class, and he said neither's anybody else. He was pretty well right. So I went there, and over the next 4 years, developed their online program, Community College Alliance program. Many of you are probably partners with Franklin University in that program. And then I bought a campground. So I was living in a camper, and I thought, well, if I live in the camper, I might as well live in the campground. See, I hadn't really planned on staying at Franklin University. I was going to go back to my hometown and practice law. So after the 4 years, the president said, what are you really going to do when you grow up? And I decided I was going to be a college president. And so that's what happened next. So that's really the making of this college president. I've been a president in Ohio, North Carolina, Houston, Texas, and I'm now back in Ohio at Hocking College. As the Tom Petty song says, I won't back down. And I've done a lot of turnaround work at the colleges where I've been. Hocking College, however, was an entrepreneurial college historically. And so going there for me was like going home. By the way, it is about 60 miles from where I grew up. And I knew this college for a lot of years, and I knew a lot of the things that they'd done. So let me give you a little bit of context. We have about 3,000 students. We're on 2,400 acres of land in a very rural area of southern Ohio. We have 800 beds. It's a residential campus. And 4 years ago, when I joined the college, they were $4.4 million deficit, 50% decline in enrollment, no new programs in 7 years. And one of the first things that I did was start an athletic program, including football. Yes, you better be an entrepreneur and a risk taker if you're going to make those kinds of decisions. It's been a very big success for us, and I'm happy to say that. The college is completely turned around. We've started another 14 new programs. We put $1 million a year in the reserves. We've obtained grant funding, $6 million from the state in capital funding, the most ever in the history of Southern Ohio. We've done a lot of great things, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But what I want you to know is historically, this college had a founding president who was there for 40 years. And in that time, they built programs on local assets. That's the key to success in our institutions and in our entrepreneurial ventures. Don't try to do things that you don't know anything about or you're not very good at. So natural resources, our local police, public service, and nursing became really strengths of the institution. The college also in the 80s and 90s opened a call center and became the reservation center for Best Western hotels. They opened a travel agency. They started doing training in Jamaica with Sandals Hotels for their students to come up here. They received this education. They go back and they, today, run many of the big Sandals resorts and other places in Jamaica. But they couldn't pay for an education. So what they did was they gave travel packages to the college. And the college sold the travel packages through the travel agencies that they ran and then made their money back. Pretty entrepreneurial. The hotel, the college built a hotel. Ran its own hotel and restaurant. We have a restaurant on the square in our town. We are not allowed by law to have dorms on our campus, but an entrepreneurial president figured out how to lease the land, to get dorms on the campus, and ultimately the guy couldn't make it. This is back in the late 70s when interest rates were like 16%. I will tell you a little secret. The president that was there told me that he knew he'd never make it, and the college ended up with those dorms. So that's entrepreneurship in the back door. We also own Lake Snowden, which is a 600-acre lake and campground facility. So yes, when I became president of Hocking College and I owned a campground, I thought that was a pretty unique thing. But immediately I was the college president, owned a campground, and the college had 2 campgrounds. So now I operate 3 campgrounds. That's probably unique. But like many startup entrepreneurs, this president, who was an entrepreneurial president, after 40 years, left, creating a gap in the momentum. There really wasn't a succession plan. And so for the next 7 years, the institution failed to really do anything new and exciting. They also closed down many of the entrepreneurial ventures and really started focusing much more on transfer education than technical education, which was the strength of the institution. So it didn't work out very well. I believe in the value of the two-year college and in technical education that leads to middle-class jobs and upward mobility. I believe in tackling generational poverty through workforce programs that allow for individuals to get a job and to make a job. I believe that rural America is the site of America's renaissance in business development, and with our able and willing workforce and our lower overhead, those are our advantages. Broadband and transportation systems are removing the barriers to our local communities. I believe in Hocking College and our mission to serve as a pathway to prosperity, teaching and inspiring all of those who seek to learn, building careers, and changing lives. Today, we are rebirthing that entrepreneurial culture at Hocking College, transforming an institution from a $4.4 million deficit into one that puts $1 million a year into reserves, where we borrow from our own reserves and reinvest in our institution and pay our reserves back. We become our bank. We don't go to the bank. Entrepreneurship has been reborn. The pictures that you saw earlier are some examples. We'll go through those again at the end so that you now can put them in some context. But I want you to know that we received a small ARC grant that allowed us to begin working with EntreEd, with our local K-12 schools, beginning to frame the mindset of our young people into a can-do, make a job, don't have to leave the area, you can stay here and have a great life with your family. EntreEd, our first school district, one of the poorest school districts in the state of Ohio, and one of the smallest, became the first EntreEd Entrepreneurial School of America in Ohio. So we're really proud of them. Yeah, thanks. Another thing that we've done is we became a self-performing school or a work college in moderation. Now, some of you may know about Berea and College of the Ozarks and others that are full-fledged work colleges, and we love that model. We just haven't quite figured out how to fund it in a public education sector. But what we've done is we've taken work-study money that we put as a college, not the federal money, but our money, into work-study for students to work on projects for the college. So we are completely rebuilding the sidewalks on our 50-year-old campus. The students have learned to lay pavers, and they've learned a good, strong work ethic from the work that we're doing. They're hanging drywall, and they're running electrical wires under the supervision of their instructors and others. They built a new water park at our campground, a campground that was losing money. This year, for the first time, turned that completely around. We've invested almost $50,000 in putting that water park in, and this year we grossed $50,000 from that water park, and all operated by students in the natural resource program at the college. Our heavy equipment program built our athletic field. We didn't have any money to do that, and they have moved a lot of dirt around our campus, re-landscaping and doing really big projects that would have cost us a lot of money. They've saved us thousands and thousands of dollars, and we've put money back in the pockets of our students so that our students are able to stay in college. New programs that are entrepreneurial focused include fermentation science. We now own a distillery, so we are distilling moonshine and pawpaw brandy and some other things. And you learn all about the federal government and licenses and lots of interesting things when you own a distillery. We opened a brewery and doing craft beer. 3 years ago, I had a vision to do a viticulture program, and so I asked our folks to start putting out grapes. We didn't know a lot about setting out grapes, but we started doing it, and you know what? Now we have 1,800 grapes, and we're making our first wine this year. Another area that always gets people's attention, we are in the process of becoming the very first medical cannabis testing lab in Ohio. It's a pretty unique thing. We also will have the first in the country cannabis laboratory technician program, 2-year associate degree program. It's really an analytical chemistry, but it's focused on cannabis lab, and as you might imagine, the interest in that program has been very high. We're looking for enrollment increases. I think they might be disappointed once they're in the program and they figure out we don't really test it the way they think we do. Lake Snowdon, I mentioned to you, we have a new agroecology program that does the grapes, but they also are raising vegetable gardens. We have a fish hatchery. They're raising freshwater shrimp that we sell, pond stocking fish, and in the future, for me, special, they're going to be raising koi for market. We have a historical 1850s village on our campus that was run down and not used. Now it is a music event venue with ticket sales, a general store that's open for our local tourist train that comes to our campus, and for other events, and the music festival brings in about 6,000 people a year to our campus. The construction program is doing a lot of those internal projects. They're also building tiny houses that we're selling. They're remodeling a house a year in our local community, and we're flipping that house and selling it back to the community. We're building a new house every 2 years, and they just came to me and want to buy a stone crusher. And the stone crusher is going to cost about $13,000, but the amount of stone and stuff that we have to crush right now is going to bring in $15,000. This is the thinking that switched. I no longer have to say, we can do this. They are saying to me, we can do this. Let us buy this piece of equipment. This is how we're going to make the money back in the first 30, 60, 90 days. Very entrepreneurial in the way we think. Our welding is doing a prototype for local investors. They're doing art, and we're selling that. The hotel's being rebuilt. We opened a grooming shop and a boarding kennel, and it's part of our animal-assisted therapy program. Our next steps, we've got a food truck coming, makerspace that has a fabric art studio, wood studio, welding studio, and another brewery. Yeah, we drink a lot of beer, so we need a couple of breweries. They're opening a drying kiln that will be open to the public so they can bring wood in. There's nothing like that in our area to dry wood. They're also making all the furniture for our lodge. We're building an equine and event center. It's a $2 million project. Rehabilitation and reentry is a big issue in our area for people coming out of jail or coming out of rehab. So we're working on an education, social enterprise, and then employment track for people who are coming in to us from rehabilitation. I think that's something we all have to think about. New academic programs in fabric arts and fashion design is going to do upholstery, alterations, product development. They're going to run me off the stage.
I got into podcasting and e-learning a few years back, and my background, this is an event we do once a year called PodFest. It's one of the largest conferences for people that want to learn podcasting, YouTube, and all that really good stuff. But I want to share with you, basically, my background was putting on entrepreneurial events for entrepreneurs. So this is one of our biggest ones, the Business Symposium, about 500 people. I love what I do. I love doing that. I've done over 2,000 events, but I've transitioned into podcasting, and I'm going to explain why. So let me just share the definition of podcasting. It's a digital medium consisting of episodic series of audio subscribed to and downloaded through web syndication or streamed online to a computer or mobile device. Who here has listened to a podcast? Out of curiosity, who here still doesn't know how to access a podcast? Good, so this is a very well-educated audience. A lot of people don't know that it's free on the phone, and that's usually, I spend 10 minutes just trying to get people on there. So the perception, though, who here listens to interview podcasts? All too often, people think of podcasts as interviews, and that is an incorrect assumption. So I want to break that assumption right now. Podcasting is on-demand searchable content. Please write that down. It's on-demand searchable content, and that's a revolutionary idea because most people don't realize the audio is searchable and it's on-demand, which makes it, I don't think as we move forward, radio will be transitioning into podcasts. For those of you paying attention, cell phone companies are buying the AM bandwidth as we speak. So you probably won't have radio as you know it today, but it will be in the podcast format. I created, just 5 months ago, the kid-friendly podcast network. So I am now one of the largest educators for children. So I have kid-friendly history fun facts, animal fun facts, joke of the day, dinosaur fun facts, geography fun facts, and Disney fun facts. We are going to add a couple more shows coming up here. So that network teaches kids, but I have to access parents because the parents have to put in the car for the kids to listen. So that picture I showed you with those 500 individuals, while I sleep, 500 individuals listen to my network every day. So I started this about 5 months ago. We're over 75,000 downloads. And this is the impact everybody in this room can have. You need to understand how the content is structured. People are listening all the time. If you look around at airports, if you look around anywhere, you'll see people are listening to audio. Who here has headsets that are worth $200, $300? 10 years ago, if you bought a headset for $300, you're either a professional speaker or nuts, because people would be like, you spent $300 on a headset? But now we have Beats and everything else going for $1,000. It's because we're consuming audio and we value that audio at a very high level. So I'm going to show you 2 case studies, and I'm going to turn it over to my partner here, Steve Tingiris. This is one that's called Biz Women Rock. It's one of the top entrepreneurship podcasts in the world. And the lady that does this podcast is amazing. Her name is Krimitsos. She also happens to be my wife, but she started this about 4 years ago. When I learned about podcasting, she took it and ran with it. And she has over 5,000 women in a group called Biz Women Rock, and they help each other all over the world. But here's the crazy part. This was like a year ago. Her stats are, she has over 500,000 downloads, but she has women that listen to her podcast in over 100 countries. That's the universal aspect of podcasting. She also did this thing once where she said, hey, I want to give away 15 minutes of my time to consult with anyone that would like to consult. She had a lady out of Nigeria book a 15-minute time. And I said, Katie, just so you know, the rates that you charge consulting, she might not be able to afford it. She goes, whether she affords it or not, I want to just help her any way, which way we can. The lady got on the call with her. At the time, it was kind of surreal. We didn't know, is this a real person? Like, and time from Africa to here. And she wanted just to thank my wife because she makes hats and she sells them on Etsy. And Biz Women Rock is a podcast she listens to that empowers her to keep selling her hats and building her business in Africa. That's the amazing impact of this small world we live in. We also helped the gentleman that is the city planner of Tampa create a drone show, the drone radio show, a few years ago. Randy Goers now has just surpassed 500,000 downloads as of this past week. He is now the top influencer in drones in the audio space. He's been asked by our local community colleges to teach classes and help contribute in this. We also have a doctor that has a medical podcast that teaches people how to pass the MCATs. He does not practice medicine. He literally has a full-time network. And then one of my favorites is Glenn the Geek, who has Horse Radio Network, largest podcast in the world for people that love horses. He has over 18 shows on his networks, and he's in all over the world. So I want to go through a little bit on the education side, on the online branded content. You could literally put your class curriculum on a podcast. Like this gentleman puts free webinar course. He teaches people how to do webinars. But remember the keywords, free webinar course. People are searching on the audio sphere for information and they want to listen to a human being. They might not want to read because they're driving or they're doing some activity. So you could literally put your lesson plans and you could do them in seasons or series. And it's extremely amazing. So I have a breakout later on with Steve, so I'll go into a deep dive on podcasting, anyone that wants to listen to 11:30 Room J. But we're going to dive into the on-demand audio learning curve. Steve Tingiris, the gentleman that's about to come up, is literally the top influencer in Alexa development. He is one of the first to start, oh sorry, I just activated Alexa up here. He's one of the first to start developing those Alexa apps, and I highly recommend listening carefully to what he has to say, and he's going to do some pretty cool things. Let's give Steve a round of applause. Come on up, Steve.
I'm having trouble understanding right now. Please try a little later.
All right, so I guess I get to go last, and I get to try a demo. I'll do a little disclaimer. The first time I ever talked in front of an audience about technology, I think was 1995, and it was if I remember right, it was a chapter of the American Advertising Federation. And I thought, 1995, the web was new, and I asked the question, how many of you are using the World Wide Web? And it's almost impossible to think back to this now, but almost nobody had. And so I thought it would be really cool to show everybody how easy it was to use the World Wide Web. And so I dove into it. I said, and first you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, this, and this, and then you do this, and you configure the modem, and you dial up. It was a complete fail. Every part of that demo went wrong, and I'm pretty sure that what I ended up doing was convincing everybody that the web was never going to happen. In fact, one guy said, nobody's ever going to do that. And so I always think about that today when I do demos. Today I do a lot of demos on artificial intelligence and where artificial intelligence might be in the future. And I talk a lot about Amazon Alexa and Google Home and Siri and all of these voice-activated technologies that a lot of people are familiar with right now. But one of the things that I hear pretty commonly is, Well, it's really not that good yet. It doesn't understand everything that I'm doing. And what I try to encourage everybody to do is think a few years out. Think about the day when you can have a very fluid conversation, and that day will happen. So if you remember kind of back to the early web days, for those of you that remember those days, it wasn't easy. The websites were like black with blinking text. They were awful, right? But a lot has changed since those days, and the same is going to be true with some of this technology. So let's give it a try. I'm gonna let's see here. Advance. I was going to talk about kind of the background of machines in learning, and I'm going to skip by this. The idea of machines that teach us, this is an old idea. It goes back 100 plus years, and machines in education have been around almost as long. The machines in 1928 that were designed as teaching machines. But the real changes came when the internet hit the scene, and more specifically when the web hit the scene. And mobile. And what the web and mobile devices did is really give us access to information on demand, ubiquitous access to information. But there's a key difference between what that technology enabled and what artificial intelligence is going to do. Today we can ask almost any question and get an answer. But the difference between knowledge and experience is, knowledge, you know the answer. Experience, you know what questions to ask. There's a difference there. And when you think about education, you think about the difference of, what somebody can get out of a book versus what they can get when they're interacting with other students and with an instructor. And it's a very, very different learning experience. What AI is bringing to education is what we've had to this point is been ubiquitous access to information. AI is going to give us equal access to knowledge and experience. So we can actually bring experience into the learning and make it very, very interactive. And this is where I'm going to see if I can make it work. If I can't make it work live, I'm going to make it work with this video. So one way or another, we're going to hear this, hopefully. But this was a system that we put together as, initially it was part of an investment group. So I was working with an investment fund and getting lots and lots of applications for funding from entrepreneurs. And a lot of them were from very early stage, first-time entrepreneurs. And it got to the point where we just couldn't process the incoming requests for funding. And so we thought, how can we provide a simulation of the conversation that you would have, the very, very early conversation with an entrepreneur, and gather the information that we need to understand if this is an opportunity for funding. And I'm going to play that on the video first, and then I'll show you the second demo here.
Alexa, ask Startup Modeler to analyze my business.
Is there any way to turn that up?
Okay, first question. How much will an average customer spend in a year with your business?
$5,000.
Your average customer will spend $5,000 per year. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, and to speed this up a little bit, there's a lot more going on, back and forth conversations here, and so we'll
Last
just
question.
speed through that.
How much money will you need to raise or invest yourself in the first 3 years?
$500,000.
All right. You'll need to raise or invest $500,000, right?
Right.
Based on what you've told me, if your average customer spends $5,000 per year and you acquire 2,000 customers, you'll have generated around $10 million in gross sales. That would make your average annual sales in the first 3 years around $3,333,333. If you spend $5,000 on marketing and sales, it will cost an average of $3 to acquire each new customer. This is 0.06% of your average annual customer value. Your average customer acquisition cost of $3 seems pretty low. A potential investor would likely question that. You may want to spend more time considering what you'll need to spend on marketing and sales to get 2,000 customers.
So with that bot there, or that assistant, we also rolled it out at the University of Tampa and tested it with a group at the University of Florida. And the idea was to give students, entrepreneur students, an opportunity to have a conversation with a sophisticated investor without actually having to sit down with an investor. So we took all of the information that we would use during a due diligence process, and we essentially taught Alexa how to think like the investor would think. And there she goes again. So the second one, so that was part of the...
I'm not sure.
That was part of the learning piece. How can we help them get information and experience about creating business models that could be effective business models that, you know, even without a lot of background and knowing that, you know, hey, when you acquire a customer, there's probably going to be a cost of acquiring that customer. And if the value of your customer is less than the cost of acquiring your customer, that business model probably isn't going to attract a whole lot of investors. And you'll be lucky if you don't get investors, because even if you did, it won't generate any revenue. And so the next part of it, though, was for early stage investors, we need to give them an assistant to help them manage their business as they're growing. And so this next one, I'm going to try to do a live demo here. If not, again, I've got the video that I'll play. But this is a tool to help the entrepreneurs manage their business and the mentors and coaches that we had working with them manage the business as the business was growing. So let's give it a try. Alexa, start our meeting. Start our meeting. Maybe? Alexa, start our meeting.
I'm ready for our meeting, but I'll need your authorization code to continue.
4367251.
Okay, I've confirmed your authorization code. Would you like to start with sales, marketing, finance, or product development?
Let's start with sales.
Okay, this is what's going on with sales. Gross sales as of yesterday, October 7th, were $333,276. That's 37% ahead of plan for the month. Pretty sweet. Robert is the top sales rep this month with gross sales of $64,321. This is Robert's third month in a row as the top salesperson, but Mary isn't far behind with gross sales of $63,427. Go Mary. What would you like an update on next?
How about support? Support? Lost the internet connection, it looks like. Support? Okay, lost the internet connection. So we got part of it done. But this bot provided access to the entire surface area of the business. So you could get real-time updates on what was happening. Well, the support example is a great example because this isn't just providing us access to data. So this is the last version of the internet. The next version of the internet, the smart internet, the AI-driven internet, can also look at that data and ask questions itself. So it's not just us asking questions about the data, it's the machines asking questions about the data. And it has access to, looks like she's back online, access to information about, for example, in support.
These are the latest. Twitter is our most active support channel with 177 direct messages or replies. Facebook is second with 126 comments or messages. Of all the public comments, 27 seem to be negative. One person seems very irritated and has posted 7 negative comments. I'll email the negative comments to you now. What do you want to hear about next?
How about finance? Finance? So what's happening now is it's going out and trying to send my voice command to the back end to get the information. And so it's running slow here. But the idea is that the entrepreneur has real-time access, not just to...
Here's the finance update.
Of course.
As of yesterday, we're current on all payables. We have $632,471 in total receivables. The one concern I have is that our receivables aging has been increasing every month for the past 3 months. It's not a major issue yet, but if this continues, I may have to go all digital on somebody. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. What's next?
Alexa, stop. So,
Okay, I'll be here if you need me.
so the idea is that we don't just have access to information, we have access to knowledge and experience. The experience that a CFO might bring to say, hey, aging is increasing, and the result of that might be that at this point down the road, we're out of cash, or we need to borrow cash. And when we borrow cash, the cost of that cash is going to do this to our bottom line. These are all things that come with experience as you have been an entrepreneur for some period of time. But for early stage entrepreneurs, this isn't generally something they get without hiring somebody. And this is the big change that AI is bringing. It's not just about access to information. It's providing access to knowledge, true knowledge and experience that can be built in. And the best part about this is that everything that I've showed you here, just about anybody in this room could create pretty easily. And that's what we're going to be talking about in the breakout session. And we're sort of, Chris and I are working together to take you through where technology is today and the tools that are able to enhance and amplify education and where you might see them go in the coming years. So podcasts, for example, where it's not just information being delivered to you, it's information that you can ask questions of if you're the listener. So if you hear a topic that you're interested in, you can say, tell me more about that, or show me more about that, or help me understand this information better. So interactive, experiential type of learning, and this is where it's all going. I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully I'll see some of you in the breakout session, and we can answer any questions that you might have then. Thank you so much.
Great stuff. I'm hoping you all will indulge me. We're going to go about 5 or 6 minutes over, but we can start the breakouts a few minutes late. We had invited Noah Brown to kind of experience all of this. He's a very active NACCE supporter and member, so you're going to kind of bring it home to us, and then we will shortly go to our breakout session. So come on up, Noah.
What Becky asked me to talk about, and actually the last couple speakers really set me up. We at ACCT, our board passed a strategic plan about 2 years ago, and we only have 2 goals. And goal number 2 is really to help prepare our leadership for what we call the evolution of the sector, which is code for what's going on in the world and how do we respond and anticipate as trustees and lead those colleges successfully into the future. And in talking with our team, one of the things we realized is that one of the great privileges that I have is I get to go to meetings like this, I get to work with all sorts of partners, I get exposed to incredible information, incredible leaders, entrepreneurs, and we were not really bringing that into the experience of our trustees through the organization. So this year we have launched our podcasting series. And initially I thought we'd do about 7 or 8 of these in the first season. My team is very energetic and very dynamic, and now we have over 20 segments up on our website. We call it In the Know series, and what it is it's a combination of conversations I might be having with people like Becky. We did Becky back in April. We had a conversation about NACCE and what was going on in the e-learning and entrepreneurial space and how that applied to community colleges. I've had conversations with other partners. We've had conversations with people that have funded some of our public policy and some of our research. Again, all designed to bring content and information back to our boards. And it's been going really well. I mean, we're getting a lot of interest. So apropos of the last presentation, this stuff really works. People are hungry for on-demand audio content that they can take whenever, including trustees. Go figure. I didn't know trustees would be avid consumers of podcasting. Apparently they are. So we're up and running on this, and the other exciting development is we have our big annual Congress in 3 weeks in New York City. right in Times Square. We have over 2,000 trustees and presidents that will be coming for 4 days of intensive sessions, and we've got some amazing general session speakers, one of whom is actually going to talk about the fact that students are immense consumers of content, and they're consuming it primarily through their iPhones. And what are we doing to adapt and port our content over to the iPhone? They register through it, they look at course schedules through it, they can listen to content through it. That's how they're learning. And in connection with the Congress, we have 4 special sessions focusing on very cutting-edge topics with experts. And these are actually going to be recorded live and reproduced as podcasts, and we'll feature those on our website. And we intend to do this as we keep going. So the world is changing, and it's very exciting. And I would just say, if you're not looking at these things, or you're not thinking like an entrepreneur about how you can take what you're already doing and expand that out to other people in new ways, I really encourage it. I don't think of myself really as a technologist. I don't have Alexa. Shouldn't have said that. But, you know, what I do know is content, and what I do know are things about partnerships, a lot of things I learned through NACCE, and now we're just bringing that in real time back out to the membership. So I encourage you to look at it. Any of you are interested in joining us on podcasts, just let me know. We want to have dynamic discussions with people with amazing ideas, and I've been meeting a few already in the last 24 hours. So don't be surprised if we reach out and say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you, turn that into a 20, 25-minute podcast and put you up on our web. It's completely free. And the way that we fund this is, I was listening very intently to what Betty was saying. Betty is an incredible leader and has tireless energy. And I was smiling to myself, Betty, because we, like you, just last year created a 3rd investment fund at ACCT, which we call our Opportunity Fund. And so we have taken excess revenues over the years and created our own capital venture fund. And I have permission from our board of directors to invest those capital funds in new projects like podcasting. This isn't about making money or even being successful. It's about taking risk, right? Know what your risk capital is. And so we're actually walking the walk, and I really appreciate and thank NACCE for helping me learn and understand. So thanks for listening, and check out our podcast series, In the Know. Thank you.
So actually, we're not that far over, so thank you all. We have breakouts, we have more time to get things done. We're also doing a podcast here on Tuesday as part of the President's Track, and I just want to let all the presidents and folks that are participating in the President's Track know, go to the registration desk and go right. It's in Stockyard 1. Thank you, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause, and let's have a great morning. See you at noon, at 1.